Accept both. Jerry.
Call me and I'll be able to back.
Thank you. That's very reassuring. Oh, my husband, I don't know, but never know.
You never know. Don't we get a blame me?
Yeah.
Haven't seen you since yesterday.
All right, you got Jerry back.
Sweet.
Okay, let's go. We'll call this 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District meeting order for June 25th, 2025. Let's see, first thing is going to be prayer for us.
Sure. Father, we are thankful just for who you are. We come to you humbly, humble servant. Just to be able, privileged to serve in the CID board. And I know there's a lot of people that are putting a lot of hours and making this happen. We just continue to be with them. And we are thankful for the city. Thank you for this country. We are thankful for all the staffs and leaders from our city. And as the summer coming along, we know we're excited about summer and excited about the tourists coming here. And we just pray that would have a good season. And thank you again for just to be able to meet together. We ask, Father, for your leadership in here. We pray for that you give us wisdom and direction. And I thank you that we're able just to do that and pray, Father, for this meeting that we would lift up this meeting to you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Billy. Next thing, have your roll call. I guess I'll go through and take care of that.
Chuck,
Here.
Brian,
Here.
Billy,
Here.
Kathy,
Here.
Larry.
Yep.
Alex.
Thank you very much. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the May 28th meeting? If so, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
First Mike, second Billy. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, stay by saying aye.
Aye.
On the same side? Awesome. All right, move the CID financials.
First of all, my name is Crystal Greathouse. I'm the Assistant Finance Director. Allison could not be here, so she says her apologies for that. Just jump right in. So revenues, year-to-date revenue is $2,172,502. Of that, the sales tax collection is sitting at $1,980,261. Expenses, year-to-date are $165,313. Looking over the year-over-year comparison report, the sales tax collections are up 2.6% over this time last year.
All right, thank you very much. Next item is update on easement acquisition status, need for project design changes to timeline or budget. We don't have Michael.
I can leave on that.
Okay,
That was kind of my wheelhouse there. So I've been meeting with Mr. Hocock. I think you guys, in the last meeting, or the meeting before last, I commented on that. Worked with Jeremy, the engineers, and got a modified design and got the green light nod from Hocock. So that's really good. We're excited about that. We're in the process of getting the easement extracted. And Jeremy, do you know where that's at? I mean, I know it's only been a couple days since we gave the green light, but
Yeah, so my surveyor is completing the write-up for the easements, and we should have something to you hopefully tomorrow.
okay. So once we have that, we can work on getting that executed with Mr. Grothoff's client, Lifetime Destinations or whatever. And they're actually various entities that own those properties, but once we get those done, then we have pretty much the cooperative agreement and maybe a few things from Mike that I don't know about, but should be rocking and rolling soon.
Can you share about what agree to change?
Yeah. So if you remember from the first meeting that I came to, the design change that I was proposing was that we left open the entrance there for the south side. Because, I mean, truthfully, we had to pay money off if we didn't. And so with Jeremy's team, we were able to reopen that and modify the median there so that we took out the painted areas that would have traffic paint that would have prohibited entrance into those areas, which allowed egress and ingress to that side entrance. And then also we moved some to give northbound and southbound access to the north entrance as well, because we were cutting off some access to, well, all of it on the south one, but some of it on the north one. We were cutting off all the northbound traffic to that lot completely. And, you know, if you know the traffic patterns on the 76th road, most of the traffic is probably coming from the south to the north. And so we're basically taking the most populated traffic pattern and saying, nope, you can't go to that track. So our goal was to try to help allow at least the northbound traffic, but we also got southbound in there with it. So that's good. You probably won't notice too much difference, to be honest with you. A lot of it's just those painted sections. Jeremy, am I representing that pretty accurately?
Yeah, well, that tract still had a two-way entrance. We had just removed the second entrance, but we have now put that second entrance back and removed the paint as you were describing. And so that particular parcel will have two entrances and exits to it. Yes.
Jeremy, is there any limitation on that second entrance for the traffic turning left?
Not particularly. I mean, they can turn left. It isn't, I mean, you know, I've always spoken very candidly with you all about safety and pedestrian safety, that, you know, an entrance in that area does pose a little bit of a concern for pedestrians that are going to be crossing in the crosswalk. So I think what we're proposing is potentially to put a sign there that, you know, indicates that they should watch for pedestrians in the crosswalk or something like that, taking an additional precautionary measure to help guide people that might be turning left, Mayor.
And there is still a median there that they will have to navigate around, and so the median there will be an area where they have to go through the median area before the sidewalk. That's still.
So based on that, is Matt Grothoff, does he have any issues with what we just discussed?
I spoke with him a couple of days ago and we went over I had given him the designs a while back, like a week or so ago. We talked about it before we had them waste their time drafting it up. We got those to him. Him and I had a meeting, we discussed and went through that. And I think that 2 days ago, they were all good with it. So I sent an email confirming the same so that we had, you know, some memorialization of that phone call and asked him if he had any clarifications that he needed to add to my email, and has not said anything about any objections. And, you know, everything on the phone was green light, good, let's continue this drafting. So that's what we're working on right now. And so once those are drafted, we get them executed and we'll be done with that. All the easements will be in place.
So when the easement, all agreement, sign, so what's the dominant effect to that? I mean, Jeremy, can you? So that's
60 to 90 days for everything to get rolled out, bidding.
I think we're in good shape. I think that's probably a pretty fair assumption. Bidding documents and so forth. Yes.
So it's 60 days from today that you're thinking that.
From the day he signed 60 to 90
Look at the
days,
day.
he'll be out bidding and stuff on the back end.
If that's accurate, because you have to get the cooperative agreement done first, because otherwise we can't go out. and find
We need to.
Sure. Well, I'm sorry.
The cooperative agreement is still.
Yeah. With
And we're
funding,
gonna talk
we
about
can't
that.
do. That's correct.
So we're gonna talk about that today. Paul's moved forward a little bit on that one too. So hopefully that can be sorted out soon. And I think Alex is gonna head that one up.
I'm not good with that. Assuming that we do something, realistically, probably first of the year, that we can actually start construction.
Oh, late fall, early winter. I would love to see how January and February building goes. You know, you get a lot of stuff done, so you can dig,
Yeah,
you can dig in the winter.
yeah, okay.
Once we have this all figured out and we talk about some stuff this afternoon about liquidated damages and incentives, that helps us design the contract and the timeline that's in there. There's a lot to think about that goes into that. And, of course, funding is most important.
Mhm.
And, yeah, so we had good success yesterday with MoDOT's, is running the $6.2 million that went through. And Mayor signs your DocuSign, it's back in MoDOT's court. So that should all be locked in and ready to go.
Any other questions on the easement acquisition or design changes? Nope. All right. Let's just get straight into the cooperative agreement.
Excellent, thank you. So I have a document here that I'm gonna pass out to everyone. Really what this is this is the waterfall. And so this is an item that Sarah from Gilmore Bell, and it sounds like some of the SID board members had the opportunity to work out in the past one. And so this opportunity, we'll send this out here. Just to conceptualize it, when you look at the cooperative agreement, right, that was entered into in 2018 between the city and the SID. Obviously a very necessary step to contemplate how all of these things work, from operation to maintenance, to funding, to collecting the sales tax, to how this money is distributed. After reviewing some of the proposals that, I think it was Todd, maybe whoever it was that drafted that, or Sarah, it didn't quite contemplate the whole issue. And so we really want to take a comprehensive look at 2018, this cooperative agreement was in place after segment 3, right? And so the agreement at that time was very much in a different spot than I feel that the city and the SID is at this point. And so although it contemplated a lot of the maintenance services, I think we learned so much this past year of how this project works between the city and the SID and the relationship, how those duties are divvied out, some of the expectations that were normalized in the cooperative agreement, I think served the time and a place. But now we're to a point where we've learned a lot along the way. We're going to now switch from just constructing and designing it to now actually operating it. And so really it's a prudent time to look at how this funding system works. What you'll see is a waterfall. It's a very simple illustration of section 4.3 of the cooperative agreement. If you don't have that provision in front of you, I'm sure we could get you one. But 4.3 talks about the distribution of SID revenue. You'll see section 3. And so it basically creates a waterfall effect. And we illustrated this in buckets. Once the buckets are full, then it moves on to the next bucket. So starting from the top, this is our proposal. Receive about $5 million annual hours from SID revenues. That should fill the 2% administrative fee. That's the city's costs of administering this. From that point on, it goes to basically the house and it branches off 50-50. 50% of the sales tax revenue off to the left is accrued. It then overfills that bucket and goes to enforcement of sales tax revenue. It goes on to operating costs. It goes on to operations and expenses, and then it ends up in the collection of unused funds bucket. On the other side, you have the debt service and obligations and the discretionary funds for the CID. Obviously, that was a priority that Todd had identified of having that amount of money paid for the obligations of the debt to be higher up. So we reflected that inside of this bucket. After the collection of unused funds, it basically goes to design and construction of the next segments. And if that bucket is ultimately full, then it talks about early payoff of obligations. And so that's a very simplified approach to this. There's a lot that goes into this. So we thought it'd be important just to talk about the waterfall, because I think that's really the guiding provision and section of this whole cooperative agreement. We do have some other changes we think that will really help streamline and improve how this operates, not only today, but once we get past the initial design and construction phase, the operation and the maintenance, which really this cooperative agreement for the next 20 years will be its primary job. So In a nutshell, that's kind of where we are. We thought it'd be important to bring this up, hash out this issues. We will reflect this back into the cooperative agreement and massage the order of things. But just conceptually, we wanted to put this simple document in front of you. We hope to have a discussion today on it. We'll meet again and we can provide you with the actual text of the cooperative agreement that will match what we talk about today. As well as some other things that, of course, we wanted to bring and highlight, really just to clean up the cooperative agreement. It's a big document. When you change one word or one provision, it's a spider web of impacts and effects throughout it. So we were going through that process and we said, let's put a pause on that. And let's really just conceptually get down to the most important part, which is how the funding works. And so I feel like once we have that nailed down, then we'll be able to provide the rest of the cooperative agreement edits that we have. But again, all of this is done with the pursuit of initially when this cooperative agreement is in place, the relationship was at a different spot. And now we have the opportunity to really figure out what does the next 20 years of this look like? And especially all that we've learned this past year. So with that, you get over to Solon or Michael or Kathy if they have any thoughts, or the mayor. Solon, you might want to go into a little bit more detail on some of the bucket.
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. Obviously we're, and this Michael probably will want to talk about this too, but obviously we're improving the area, right? So the expenses for the improvements will go up. But if you look, so one of the things that you want to keep in mind when you're shifting the priority of funds in a cooperative agreement is how is that going to affect the bond, the financing that you're doing, right? So that's the equivalent would be like someone that has bad credit, if the bank doesn't, if they see someone has bad credit, they want to lend to them. Well, if we're saying we're going to pay the bills for the bonds at the very last, then the bank's going to go, oh, you spend all your stuff at the fun stuff going on vacation, and then you pay us at the very end of the month. We're not okay with that. So that's why we did move the 50% up to the top for the bond service, was so that that would get better ratings and be better for the financing there. The other stuff, for example, the enforcement of sales tax revenue in the old agreement and probably in the new one, that obligation is on the city. You guys don't want to have to worry about enforcing people not paying their sales tax, right? The city's more equipped. We have, a legal team. If there's businesses not paying and, cheating on that, then of course that would rely on us. But if you guys think, no, we want to handle that, bring that to the table, tell us. And we're open to these things, but that's just the example that I'll share. That was in the previous cooperative agreement. We're keeping it there, but we've moved it up to the front because if no one's paying their taxes, then, we need to be able to enforce it as a priority in the funds that we do have. And there's a cap on that, anyway, there's a lot of details to each of these ones, but like Alex was saying, we want to conceptually say, okay, are you guys good with how this is outlined? Then we'll go spend the time. It's a significant amount of time putting these words together. Michael, Kathy.
Out of curiosity, I know this is to me, you think, see, but on 7.3 is real different with the way it's set up. It
is. The buckets are, and remember, in 2018, there's also the establishment of the cooperative agreement. And so a lot of these buckets were rearranged higher up because that was more of a priority. For instance, some of the costs of establishing the CID or the cooperative agreement, a lot of those things were higher up the ranks because of course you want that bucket full first. For instance, not a lot of these, I would say there's been a few changes, but majority wise, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, the early payoff is in the exact same spot. I know the enforcement one, we moved that one up front because we felt like it's important to be able to enforce things up on the front end. But yeah, I don't think a ton of these have really changed a lot. We tried to make sure that the lawn payments were up front, high priority. Admin fees always coming off the top up front, that's normal.
And quite frankly, some of the things that we were really struggling with in the cooperative agreement was just making sure that when a certain defined term is actually included in a definition, it's actually found in the document and there actually is something to it. The cooperative agreement sometimes restates itself. There's a whole section that talks about memorialization of conversations in 2018. And so some of that is great to see the thinking right behind that. But the cooperative agreement itself it could be streamlined into a lot more efficient document that's easy to reference and easy to follow. That's part of our goal throughout this as well.
Honestly, that's been the slog of this. So as frustrating as it's been for everybody to, as we keep saying, we're just not ready with this, we're just not ready. As soon as you pull one thread, the whole sweater is starting to come unraveled from the way things were worded in the past and conflicting terms, not capitalizing certain terms that are defined in the document. And it is a legal agreement, so we want it to be the best that it can be, very professional and passes all scrutiny, so everybody is on the same page of what the terms are. So I appreciate everybody's patience on that, because obviously this isn't the only thing we have going on in the city. And so to get the bandwidth to be able to do all of this really detailed, almost like I was gonna put a lock on Solid's door, like from the outside, like to prohibit him from leaving his office for like 2 days. Because it would really take that much, and it really does take that much intense scrutiny on going word by word. So really, it's a modernization is what we're doing. The CID is growing up. I would like to say, I think we're entering our preteen years, maybe teen years now, from the infancy stage, back when this was first put into place. And we're very appreciative of all the work and everything that was done to date, but it's time now to reflect what our current status is and how we want to see this moving forward. So if you're all comfortable with this general outline, we can go back to work. I'll lock Solon in and we'll kick this deal out.
I don't think that we can commit anything to all this.
That's fine.
And
Sure.
I'm excited because I don't believe operating costs or maintenance costs were included in one side of that. I think that was the city's responsibility until debt services were paid off.
Well, I believe that this is,
But that's a fairly large adjustment from what the original cooperative agreement is next, so to this one now.
Yeah, so let me just read from the old one, what the definition of operating cost is, because this is what Kathy just said is gonna be demonstrated in full force right here when I read this in definition of operating costs, okay? So one little section. Operating cost means the actual reasonable expenses that are necessary to fund CID administrative services. What are CID administrative services? Okay, let's go look at the definition of that. This is literally the game that you play with this contract. CID administrative services.
So I think that
Give it just 1 second. Let me finish this because I'm right in the middle of the thought here. CID administrative service. CID administrative services means those services necessary to ensure the continued viability of the CID as a political subdivision, including but not limited to holding meetings, obtaining annual independent financial audits, the sales tax revenues and disbursements, annual reporting requirements, sunshine compliance notices, records retention, and budgeting. Other expenses are called something different. The other expenses that you're probably thinking of are called right here, right under that, operation and maintenance services. Yeah. And those are, and maybe that's what he was gonna say. Operation and maintenance services means the ongoing maintenance and operation of Highway 76 within the CID area in order to reduce the deterioration of the roadway and ensure vehicular mobility in accordance with the standards provided in Exhibit H. And 2, all public improvements in the CID area. So this operating cost that you're seeing here is not what you were thinking it was.
well, that's great. That's why I want Paul to look at all
Yeah,
this
so
stuff.
that one would come later. That one's probably going to fall into the last bucket there where it says exhibit of expenses. I think that's where we're kind of envisioning that.
See, that's where.
But it might also be, so the only thing that comes before is design and construction of subsequent segments and early payoff. That one, I don't know that we had intentionally housed in the exhibit of expenses, but that's kind of where I was envisioning. So keep that in mind, come back and talk about it.
Logistically, think about that, right? So if you have operation and maintenance services to the city, the bonds are really, when you think about it, will never really be paid off, right? Because you'll be doing bonds for segment 1 and 2 for, let's just say, 20 years. in 5 years from now, we'll get done the next two segments, which will add stack another 20 years. So realistically, it's just for into Foreverland, that there will really be no costs or revenues really back to, or reimbursement back for maintenance services.
I understand what you're saying, so, and again, I want.
Is he recognized, Chairman?
I'm sorry.
Is he recognized? Is this a board discussion?
Well, I encourage Gail to help with anything that he can, because Gail was the chair for so many years. Gail and I sat on the very beginning of when this cooperative agreement was originally installed. And we're the ones that were involved with CFS engineer, involved with the city, involved with Paul Campo and everybody from the very inception of the CID. So yes, I value Gail's opinion on things that I may not remember, or things that he saw a different way, or the fact that he was the previous chair for however many years that might have had discussions that I was not privy to or involved in. So this, I believe, I encourage Gail to give any input that he has.
Yes, that's Chairman first.
That's fine, cooperative agreement. So the intent, the original intent was that that money would be paid out of increased sales tax revenues along 76 from being done. And so the real question is.
What would be paid out of it? Sorry, just so I understand.
The mowing, irrigation.
Basically kind of the operational expenses.
You got it, yeah. That would be paid by the city because of increased sales tax along the corridor. That was the original intent. Okay, so the real question is in the new waterfall, and I wish we'd have had the old waterfall. Everybody would
Yeah,
have.
one thing that you have to keep in mind,
Hold on.
Mr. Myers, on that is that you can't take sales tax from the CID area and discriminate against other areas of the city that should be benefiting from those. And so that's why the community improvement funds, which are taxed just to improve that area, should be utilized for this.
So they go into the general fund. Okay, and I'm not gonna tell you it's right or wrong. That was the original.
Okay, fair enough.
And so the real question is, under the new waterfall, is there any dollars that the city would have paid that now they expect the CID to pay? That's the real question. Because the CID, and the mayor and I have had this discussion, is the CID does not have enough money yet to finish all the segments, okay, under the projections. So if you take any money from the CID, you have three choices. You either reduce your surface improvements, or you lengthen the time that this all comes in, or you just cut down on something. You go in and take out something. And so based on Todd Guilfoy's original intent, you know, if we get the, I wasn't the last two meetings, but if you get the 6.2, and I think that still went through the budget. I think the 4 million is still in the budget. You're still about 8 million short on this project. Okay, so anything you take, you're gonna have to give. That's the original.
Yeah, so
I mean, if you just
even, yeah.
follow up on that. And Gail, when we had those discussions, we were in agreement. In fact, I think we were in agreement. The last thing we want to do is cut back on the wow factor, right?
Yeah.
Because as we start saying, we can't afford this, we can't afford that, where can we look? If we don't do the wow factor, to me, that has to be the priority, right? It's like, who gives a shit? There's a pipe in the ground, right? Well, we're not spending all this money spending it for the wow. So that has to be one of the last periods to be cut.
And I think the one thing you have to keep in mind is, you know, the way that Gail, that you're representing it, and you may not be intending it this way, so I'm not trying to project anything by your intentions, is that, you know, the description you give assumes that you can accomplish both.
Well, if interest rates go
So-
down, if
So on
interest rates
these
go down.
expenses, does anyone know what that number is? No. So we're arguing a point that you don't even know the cost of. It could be feasible to do both. Okay, so we haven't even said the dollar figure for what the cost of the expenses are. I don't even know if we know that number yet. And so I think that we're, you know, this is still conceptually, but on the exhibit of expenses, that would include the stuff that was previously in there, I think in the exhibit F, but also potentially the exhibit H. So, I think we, before we jump the gun and get, firm and put our heels in the sand, I think that we should make sure that we actually know what numbers we're putting our heels in the sand, because actually it might work for both teams. So I encourage you to keep your minds open until we look at action.
The other thing I just want to add is when we say things like both teams, there's a fundamental understanding that we're all actually on the same team here. It is, and so I hate to start to backslide into the city versus the SID, because that's not where we're coming from on this. We're just trying to be really responsible stewards, right? To make sure that we're doing things according to contractual agreements. Where there's ambiguity, that we sharpen that up so everybody understands what the terms are, because we're not all gonna be here 15 years from now, right? So the other thing I wanted to say is, I know this group understands, that either F or H, those exhibits talked about scraping of gum within a certain period of time, like that's above and beyond the services that we provide to the rest of the city. And so far, we've had willing partnership between the city and the SID when it came to additional services. Now, when we get this stuff built, there's going to be a lot more maintenance and upkeep to that, above and beyond what we're offering today on 76. So that's kind of that, and I hope I'm articulating that okay. We've got the baseline of what the city's usual and customary been offering. Above and beyond that extra, and I call it concierge level service, comes with additional investment. And I think it's fair, and I'm not talking about the city as like me, right? It's like it's fair to the taxpayers at large that we be cognizant of that. That if we're focusing, and granted, we can totally make the argument, right, that we should focus most on 76. So I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm just saying at the higher level discussion with taxpayers, we have to be mindful. Other people think their neighborhood's just as important, right? So we just want to be very respectful of that. That's all we're trying to say.
And the legal side of that is this, which I don't know what the legal counsel was at the time that you guys created it, but I'm telling you right now that they had to take this statute into account, is that the city cannot provide services for the 76 CID period that are above and beyond those that are provided to other areas. You cannot discriminate in services provided for the 76 CID that are not provided to other CIDs in other areas of the city. So when we're being asked to do certain things, we have to, it's okay, we talk about it here, but we also have to look at it from a legal standpoint with the other CIDs. And so just know that that's an extra constraint that we have. And it's not as maybe nefarious or conniving from our perspective, but really just trying to make sure we're in compliance with the CID laws. And I can provide those statutory things. Paul should probably know them. But anyway.
Previous legal counsel, wasn't that Joe Lauber?
Joe Lauber.
Yeah,
Joe Lauber is the guy who created the deep.
Well, I'm not saying anything about Joe, but I will tell you, I can read you the statute right now. It's very clear. It literally said what I just said to you.
So when could we get Paul?
Paul's on holiday.
Yeah,
He's out of the country. He said he would not be here this week. My guess is he's back at middle to end of next week after the holiday. So after the 4th.
It's just important.
I agree.
Because let's get Paul.
I agree. I didn't really even want to get into this without Paul being
Without
available.
Paul.
So.
So then we won't be able to continue with this document. Is that what you're saying, Kathy, until we hear from
Yeah.
Paul?
And it was never our intent to kind of have like a final vote today or anything. This is just an introduction so that we can kind of talk in layman's terms, like how good people talk to each other. And then the lawyers, right, can talk and sift and winnow the rest of this out for us to digest.
And I understand it. I hear what you're saying, Kathy. And what you're saying, my biggest problem with this is we're getting a document that shows what the city has recommended to us.
Mhm.
But we've also got 2 board members here that were not involved in the original cooperative.
100%.
Right? Okay. That don't know as well as maybe
Sure.
Gail does, so they don't know what the previous cooperative agreement states. So
Right.
we're getting a waterfall of what proposed options are, but we don't have a waterfall of what existing options are. So this isn't a red line, this is just what the recommendation is.
Yeah.
So now,
But no one's asking you, like Kathy said, we're not asking you to make a decision today. We're
No,
just giving you the information.
no, and I understand that, but it's very hard for us other than probably me or Gail to talk to this without knowing
Without
what the
knowing,
existing cooperative thing. So
We understand that.
if we would have had a red line that showed, here's what it is, here's what we're
Well, you
proposing.
have the original agreement, don't you, somewhere? You could just.
Oh, I've got it in my
It
email.
looks just like this, but you can see the buckets are just relabeled.
And I understand. I am fully aware.
We'll get it. We'll get it to everybody,
But-
Chuck.
Well, and they all have it now.
Okay,
Because I sent everybody the original cooperative
yeah,
in anticipation of this meeting, so they had some understanding.
okay.
But I still think that Paul should give us his input on
Sure.
this before we
Yeah.
can really dive deep.
We would expect that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
No
So
worries.
the only thing I'm gonna leave with is, and I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with the potential of the CID covering maintenance costs or what have you and the expense. I do know that the cooperative, and I may, I'll be paraphrasing here, but my recommended or recollection of it was that the cooperative agreement stated that the CID funds would be paid for debt services. And the city would be responsible for maintenance and upkeep of the CID property. But we also put an amendment in there that allowed the CID to extend additional funds to the maintenance if debt services were being covered.
And that's what this is saying.
Well,
So
this
the
is,
debt service is covered and then anything left over would go down to this stuff. And in fact, we're not even using the debt service money for it. We're actually sending it down here to design it the next basis.
right.
So even better for you guys.
But what I'm seeing in this is that we've got $5 million in. We have the 2% fee. We have 50% of the CID going to one side of the house for debt services, and then it goes into collection of unused funds. The other 50% goes to enforcement of sales tax revenue, operating costs, and then it goes down to exhibit expenses before it goes to collection of unused funds. And you're stating that the exhibit of expenses is potentially maintenance costs. We don't know what that is for sure yet because it hasn't been defined, but that's potentially maintenance costs before it goes to the unused funds to design and construct additional
So it
projects.
sounds to me like your biggest beef is you want the design and construction of segments before that.
Oh,
I think that's what Alex was describing is that then that practically means the city will never get any reimbursement for any of the maintenance costs because
I
you can
did,
never fund yourself.
that was the original intent because of the fact that this was supposed to be a cooperative project between the city and the CID, and it was supposed to be a joint effort from the origination.
So, and that may be true, but I just want to like do a little bit of expectation setting here because I think it will go a long way. The original intent should kind of, in some ways, not matter anymore. Because I'm telling you right now, based on that statute, the original intent as it's being described to me today is not lawful. Cannot use the whole purpose of CID authority to tax extra additional taxes beyond what a city can do is so that you can improve the district. And if the city is funding all the improvements, then it's just a tax to give to special businesses to do whatever they need to do to market their own businesses. That's not necessarily what it was designed for in its full intent. And also the discrimination thing is probably the biggest point of that all. You know, we can't be required to not be reimbursed for any expenses because we're getting that. You know, we can't do that to other CIDs. We have to treat you guys the same as them. That's just the nature of government. There's constitutional protections. That's where it's coming from. The Constitution of the United States coming out and saying government can't treat these guys different than these guys. And
It's very clear that.
I mean, we have an obligation. The next CIDO comes to us and say, you're getting 76 this. And we'll say, yeah, you're right. We can't do this anymore. And they could invalidate this, not say it's unconstitutional.
So we'll get Paul's opinion.
So,
Yeah, you and I can sit here and go back.
Yeah, that's right.
and forth on our
And we will.
That's what.
and hopefully Paul will explain that to you guys as well and.
Paul and I had a very decent discussion prior, so, I'm gonna leave it in Paul's capable hands to kind of give recommendation to us as a CID as to what suits us in our best interest and works well with the municipality. I mean, that's all I can do.
And so let me just read this to you guys so you know what we're talking about. This is the actual language in the statute. It said the governing body of the municipality establishing the district shall not discriminate in the provisions of publicly funded services between areas included in the such district. So we can't discriminate, like say, for example, against this theater in this specific segment of the district versus other businesses in this side of the district. And also areas not so included in the district. So publicly publicly funded services. Maintenance of streetscapes, plowing, those are publicly funded services. We cannot discriminate against even within the district or without the district.
So I think this will be a conversation
So-
with you involved.
Yeah, and I agree, but I just want to let you know, this is like one of the big sticking points of where we're coming from, so you know our intent, and it's not like a bad, like, we're trying to get every penny out of you type of.
Because we are members of the SID board too, right? And I think that's important. I mean, I never forget that. I'm advocating on behalf, we're advocating on behalf of the city because the SID's in the city. So we're all one team here. So, and maybe this is just some information that hasn't been shared with this SID board before. But who knows what the history is, but moving forward, as we work to develop the new cooperative agreement, we have to do it right. So thank you guys.
Yeah, so everybody's edification, the reason there's that long list of things, including cleaning up gum, the reason there's that long list is because at that point, no one trusted the city, whether that's right or wrong. They didn't trust the
Well,
city.
it was right.
And it was over Branson Meadows, right? They put in all that infrastructure and they let it go.
Yeah.
The city let it go. And so you would confuse me, and when later on we get into this, because, you know, based on what you said, it kind of sounds like if I put a bench over here on this street, I gotta put it in. Okay, and I'm not sure that I think that commonsensical. But Mayor, if you'll remember in the agreement, it's designed so that once you do pay off bonds, the board actually has the ability to roll back the tax. You can roll back the 1% to a half if you wanted to. You can roll back that tax
Yeah.
because you don't need all the money for construction.
I agree with that, but do you agree that we will never, when I say the date that the bonds were all paid off is 30 years, 50 years?
You and I may be up here in one of these 70s. Yes, that's true. And the,
I'm counting on it.
yeah. So you do have to follow the law, right? You gotta follow the law. Okay, but, so give it thought, because that's why that big schedule's in.
Okay, I say we can't do anything until we get polls, so is there something?
Yeah, we need Paul's input on this. I don't think we have the compare and contrast between our polls there. That's something that, you know, people visually see. So thank you. I honestly was hoping we could get something, but didn't know if we could get anything on this, so I appreciate that. Any further discussion regarding Waterford agreement and changes, project finance, Todd is not available, Sarah is not available, that means last minute change yesterday afternoon. So we don't have any financing update, which I know that they can't do anything until the cooperative agreement resolved regardless. So.
And I've been in touch with both of them, both Todd and Sarah, since last.
Yeah, I talked to both of them yesterday, morning, so I was aware that they were here. Mike, let's talk about potential incentives and issues for insurance.
Sure thing. I'm gonna give you guys, ladies, a handout that basically, goes off a MoDOT outline. The reason that this is important to discuss today is that as we're developing the contract outside, that this isn't locking you into anything by any means, but it's important to at least discuss like how do incentive package work? What do they do for you? What is the good, bad, and difference of it? So this is a little bit of reading for people to thumb through in your time. I highlighted some of the things I thought were a little bit important about incorrect time, which is the contract time, which Jeremy she's online too, has said roughly around a year. We're going to try to narrow that down, but can have a significant factor in the bid prices on the project. If you have all the money in the world, and what that's all that's saying is you can make a project happen in 30 days. If you had all the money in the world, it can be boom done over, everything staged and go, as we see houses go up in a weekend or on the TV show. So super exciting stuff that's there. In the contract time determination, There's some stuff to think about in there as we start to discuss that. And basically, I really like this document because it gives pros and cons of each thing. And so what I just wanted to do is present it today for people to read through and contemplate in there. The next grouping that's down in there is calculating contract time on typical working days in construction season. I added this in because I thought it was important to talk about, even though we talk about a winter start, and yes, a lot of digging can happen in the winter, that you see that class A excavation and class C excavation being the different types of excavation, but we're not going to really say what ours is. Has 6 working days in January and February in our market that's down here. That is determined by law and the rules, of course. And a lot of the different pieces that are starting to come into our project that are helping with funding are going to control a little bit of the incentives and disincentives we did. The reason this is an important conversation today is the city had never done incentive disincentive packages here before until we did downtown. I do want to talk to you about what downtown is, and so everybody that's in this group has heard it directly. As we figured out the contract time, and it's going to be done at October 15th. They got a 30-day liquidated damages. So at 30 days before, they can finish 30 days before our contract and get 30 days worth of liquidated damages back to them. So there's a dollar amount that's put in there up to $120,000 that they get back, and that's why this discussion is very important here, because it is a true cost of the project, or it's something you can leave to the project. You can say, oh, we don't want to do incentives, we don't want to do hold points, we don't want to do any of these things, and you let the contract run for 365 days, and then you have liquidated damages on the backside. I also included highlighting of suggestions for criteria for use. The things that we would need to talk about or present to you, or I would be more than happy if somebody wanted to type a couple ideas of what they had, but time completion of milestones with specific features, right? A specific feature, in my opinion, and I voiced this with Jeremy, was like, what if we could say all of the entrances to the businesses or driveways, not necessarily the sidewalk, are open by spring break or 100% done? Is that a possibility? And it all depends on timing, but that was something that popped into my head. And what would be the incentive of if you did that? We do have disincentives and incentives that have to be put in. This all goes into JSPs. As we went out, as you've heard from me speak before, that Olive Garden is a great example. Since they're a large publicly traded company, there's a specific provisions of what time we can work and not work in their zone or in their driveway, which is totally fine and it's doable, but that will be a JSP and its end. There's no incentive or disincentive of that, but you can put that in the package. The criteria also talks about why would you want to incentivize it? Are you really pulling in more tax revenue? What are you doing to the everyday driver that's there? And then the next grouping gives acceleration of work clauses. It talks about, is the project substantially free of third-party conflicts? I highlight that in green. I do not believe that's completely true for this project, because you do have a lot of undergrounding that has multiple organizations that are outside of us that have to be related together to work together. So we probably, as you had last time, the project got done and then those pieces went in separate contracts, and that's kind of how we had set that up. So that should be outside of this contract. So it's kind of like the green thing. Is it in? Is it out? Do you want to keep it in? Do you want to keep it out? Do you want to make the contractor responsible for pushing down on that? But the agreements are with the city and the utility for us talk about. The other acceleration work clause that kind of puts a little kink in it is usually the contract time is 1 season. As we know, we're going to run through a full year, which is in this part of the country is 4 full seasons. So we need to think about what is important to us to get to the finish line backwards and forwards. Liquidated savings and damage specified. Completion of milestones are critical to future work. And how we did that in downtown, just to give you an example, because you're like, what is this humbo jumbo that you guys are talking about? We specifically said when you do the intersection, you have 14 days to get it back open. And then if you don't you get liquidated damages. 1 day past it, 1 hour past it, you're done. You see the acceleration of work by that, but the contractor also sees this is part of risk. So although we don't have specific intersections that will cause long delays or detours in there, those are some of the things that we did, and I would love some suggestions, and we will come back to you if we don't want to put all the effort into it. If we're like, this group says, we don't want to fund any incentive or disincentive. And that's totally fine. That happens sometimes. The bottom part is the penalties. So we know for sure that we'll add a disincentive package at 365 days. Jeremy believes, I believe that this should be a capable project in a year. But the important thing that we talked about at the very beginning, talking about contract time, is if you make it too large or too small, you cut out companies. Because if you make it really small, there's only a handful of companies that can bid on it. If you make it really, really long, yeah, there's a lot of companies, but there could be a lot of delays or dead time. And as we've seen, as we've gone through the downtown project, delay time, even if it's survey, putting up barricades, if it's one day, people are like, but there's not 100 people working here today. The other important thing that's on this project that is very different than downtown that I wanted to discuss with you is the provision for 24 hours a day is probably not possible on this project. And I say that because there are too many hotels and motels that are in the area that would cause disruptions on top of some types of housing and general housing, as we all know. So that we look to give them the provision to work 24 hours, but probably make quiet zones or shrink it down to what type of noise that they could do. Could you pour concrete? Is that reasonable? But you can't do a pump truck all night long, jitter traffic. And so those are some things that we're going to kind of talk through. The last part that's down there is the contract administrative cost. The project is, so you see two highlights in there, and that's road user cost. Road user cost works out to ADP, which is average daily traffic on the road. That's what it costs your guy to sit in the car and what he wants to spend in your city or what he or she or family needs to go do. And so the traffic counts are on the very back of the page. This is for Shepherd of the Hills. I didn't dive really deep today, but you're looking at 20 to 30,000 vehicles that are going through the very end of the project this year. Now you have others that are feeding in there. So this is called justification of costs that you have to do. So a contractor can't come back and say, you treated me unfairly because you made all these rules. So that's $5,400. And then contract administration costs is just the cost of time and value of money. The time value of the staff that's in there that's running at the engineering firms, the bill that's always running, the inspectors and everything else. This project is valued north of 20 million, if I would say. So well north of that. We talked about 30 before. So that's $3,000 a day. So the suggestion is that our liquidated damages would be $8,400 a day. So that helps you build the punishment at the end, which we know for sure the city has the desire. I have the desire in my contract always to hold somebody to a standard. But the question for you all to think about in the presentation of the material today to think about is, do you want to incentivize it? And if you do, what are you willing to do? And that definitely depends on traffic and when that's get started. But if we were to start in the late fall to early winter, you're ticking the time clock. Well, all of a sudden, next November and December become very, very important, right? Because that's the biggest sales of the year throughout the whole city. I know most people don't know that, or if you even are not, I was shocked at the number too. It's not spring break, it's not summer, it's November and December is when all the sales funds come. So that being said, I know it's a mouthful and that's why I presented it in writing. So you can think about it and be happy to discuss it some more next time or pick anything in meeting today.
Has downtown been successful in terms of
Absolutely.
what you want to accomplish?
Yep. So the intersection got done in 12 days, so they beat it by 2. The segment, or I call it segment, and I know it's been raised as phase. It is segment 1 and 1A work together, so that's one group when we get that back open. That was completed to our requirement that it was open to vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic. Now, it's not 100% done and massaged and lighting and all that jazz, but we are truly going at the speed of manufacturers. That is truly it. I actually put that provision that's in here that comes from MoDOT that it's a triple star. 120 calendar days are automatically added to any contract that involves light poles. So that is just a light pole. There are very few players in the game. If you guys want a business to open up, I will tell you light pole manufacturing is where it's at. any lights. And so.
Elevators would be a. good-
Elevators is number two, yeah, I don't like elevators either, so, as you know, on our police station, I took that project out of our hands, and gave it to our contractor, and he sure hates the elevator company, it doesn't matter whoever swings, so.
So the liquid damage and incident in terms of the downtown
Yep.
is similar to,
It's designed exactly like this,
and
but we designed the traffic control is actually the controller of the project. So instead of telling the contractor, no, you have to start at segment one, right? We didn't say that. We just said our goal is segment one and then 1A, then 2 and 2A. But they could have manipulated those pieces around as long as they had it. So for instance, 2A is the intersection near a convention center. We talked with the convention center and figured out the days that that's not going to work and knocked all those days out. So their choice to shut that down, they have a plan, of course, to shut that down cannot fall on those strategic days. When we had 10,000 dancing girls down here is what I call it. It's a dance-a-thon that's down here. It was very specific on that they could not do the intersection of 1A because we wanted that crossing for all those funds that are there. And any type of construction, it's a very short disruption for great investment in your infrastructure and delivery. So.
So Michael, the most critical elements that I think we're gonna focus on is the entrances into the businesses, right? Because they're gonna have to do that work, and that's gonna be the ringing the bell for the cash registers. So I'm not sure what your plan is, but something has to be addressed.
Sure.
They're shut down.
Yep. In the contract documents that are there, it specifically says that 50% of the entrance and exit has to be done at a time. So they always have 100% access to it. If they have two entrances, the construction manager can go to the business and ask for one to be closed, do one, and then switch to the other, but it is up to the business. So although it is a one-way in and out for a very short time, I'm not taking any credit for it or saying that the city has any involvement, but you saw it happen on 248. That is one big company, Rademacher, that actually was, in my opinion, super successful at doing the entrances. So from just driving through there in the morning, they do half, and then the other half, and then open, and they manipulated their concrete a little bit to have some higher early strength, which was super impressive what they pulled off.
Okay.
The miracles of construction.
so basically from this, you're saying you would like to implement, this is a suggestion.
Yep.
But it's at the board, but also you're saying this would be your recommended.
My recommendation is to have a punishment at the end, and then for you all to come up with what is important to you, because you can put a 2-month run at it at, $8,500 a day and let them chase it. But the important thing is that your constituents and the way you advertise the work that you're doing, you're not saying, well, it's going to be done in October when their contract is truly December, January.
We have a, Jeremy, maybe you can answer this. Do we have anybody that's producing a schedule for this project from start to finish? Did we break down until finish?
But the contractor will.
The contractor, that's methods and means, and the contractor has the right to methods and means.
I understand that, and contractors do that, but in our projects, we always have somebody that produces our own schedule so that we can actually monitor, and for example, what you're saying, the incentives and the liquidated damages. We do it in every single one of our projects. It makes a ton of sense. It's,
So we don't, in terms of this, you have to hire someone to do it.
You get the lowest responsible qualified bidder, and so, we're not a private industry, of course. The lowest responsible qualified bidder that can handle the work and has the workload to do it. They have the constriction of the end and the beginning of the process, and then these are the other constrictions that you can put in there as far as you could release segments if you really wanted to inside of segment phase, whatever you want to call it, that you could.
I think he's,
What
what
you're not
he's
understanding-
asking is the compliance
I got it.
calendar.
Yeah.
Right.
what I want to do is I want to see what project start to finish, because, we have, whether it's me or somebody else that has the experience and the knowledge to be able to produce a schedule based on the total term of the project during 65 days and say, okay, we believe this project can be done 6 weeks early. Sure. In 365 days. That would be a benefit to us, I feel, as a CID board, to be able to say, we're going to incentivize you, and I'm throwing out complete hogwash number.
Sure.
$1 million for you to get this done a month and a half early. But I wouldn't want to do that unless I saw a schedule up front that said that made it, you know, something that, because I don't want to say, you know, we're going to throw out $1 million if you're done 6 weeks early, but the reality of it is the project's going to be done 6 weeks early.
I'm not sure with taxpayers' money, and this is definitely a lawyer question, is that you can just throw a lump sum dollar without.
I understand that. I'm
That's fine.
using that as an example. I'm using that as an example as, can we look at getting a schedule created, a construction schedule created, whether it's by Jeremy or where it's by, you know, a third party company that does construction scheduling for a living, because that's, you know, that's something that happens. To be able to create a schedule that we could actually talk to.
Sure. So we, for every project that we do, we create a schedule, just as you're suggesting. And that schedule is greatly dependent, of course, on when we have everything ready and it's going to bid, of course, right? We've been talking about this 12-month long, you know, process or project. And I think, we feel very comfortable with that, but it does kind of depend on when you start and the work days that are available to do certain kinds of tasks and such. So as we get a little bit closer, I'd be happy to give you some indication of what that schedule might be. But as Michael is pointing out, of course, the contractor does the schedule after, when they get the bid, and they're going to base their schedule greatly on incentives and disincentives that are present in the contract, of course. However, I can certainly give you, our best guess on, a schedule based on what we believe is going to be available, what kind of contractors are going to be available to bid this work. For sure.
That's what I'm looking for. I understand. the
Sure.
process. I've done multiple projects to be able to understand that your contractor creates a schedule that I'm just giving you guys my professional experience of what we've done. We create schedules with a third party company, could be the designer, the architect, whoever, that actually gives us the ability to make an educated look and say, you know what, if you get this done 30 days early, we'll give you $100,000, because we know that the revenue is going to increase by twice that amount. If you're late,
Right.
This is what we're going to do. That's what I'm saying. I feel like we need that before we can really make a determination on what kind of incentives, if and or when, what those incentives could be.
Well,
it
sounds like Jeremy is willing to do that, and this is the building blocks for that, and so
Yeah.
this is time proven, and it works and it's justifiable, especially with the days and stuff. We can't go out and do all the studies. I mean, January could be a balmy 50 degrees next year, or it could be -15 like it was this year for 2 weeks. So
Yeah, but even at 15, I disagree with this class A, class C. You can make. That's just my.
all I know is concrete companies and asphalt companies won't be open. So.
no, I know that. I know that's true.
Yeah.
And they close, the latest I've ever seen the asphalt companies open was December 10th, and normally they're closed by Thanksgiving and they're not back till spring break.
Fully aware.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I want, anybody have any additional input?
What you said makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, so two things that might be important to you is to determine whether you're gonna just go from one end or both ends, right?
Well, and that's why I think part of what we're
That's
talking
part
about
of
is
this means things.
Right.
Okay. And then you've got a window, you're gonna have a window that is the window that you would love to do the most disruption from December 15th of this year to, I think it's March,
I would say
March 9th.
March 1st.
Well,
Yeah.
that spring break really starts that second weekend.
Second week.
And so in that time frame, if you can get the most disruptive work done, your digging, your whatever. The other thing is, I think that you'll help yourself if you'll identify the businesses in that section that are open year round. Okay, because, the tracks is not open. Are they really gonna care? Well, we don't know, okay? But they're gonna care less than the guy who's open and is sure that you're gonna cut down on his revenue. Okay? And so I would want to know what those businesses are, because those are the ones that are gonna be your damage control. And if you can get most of your disruptive work done in that time frame, for a lot of it, you're just gonna help yourself significantly. Because, and I hope this is obvious to people, your underground work is significantly more disruptive than the above ground work, right?
Yeah.
The above ground work may not be disruptive at all.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
it's that underground.
I also want to bring up that when we built the aquarium, we were pouring concrete in January.
Yeah. Just gotta cover it, and you gotta have the right, it depends.
It is possible, so maybe it's.
Depends on whether the Gulf moisture or the Arctic air winds. That's what it
If you
depends.
want, it's, then, I mean, sidewalks aren't a great idea at that time.
We put Grand Palace where
Yeah.
all the pre-engineered flats, like,
Well, I can tell you, there's not many cracks in that building. Seriously, there's not.
Now it's full of water.
it's like salt.
No, I'm talking about the Great Palace.
I'm talking about the Grand Palace.
There's not any cracks on that stand-up concrete it's solid as well.
Hey, Journey, I got a question for you. I know that I did a big project in Atlanta, Georgia, where we actually hire a company to do this. I know even though you can provide the schedule, part of the schedule is so as good as someone who's monitoring all the stuff. So it's, in some of your projects that you do in large scale, do outside people, or clients do they typically hire someone to manage the schedule outside? I mean, I did that. I mean, we paid a lot of money for it, but
Sure.
it's just, the contractor would have a schedule, but you have a schedule, but the end is the guy that works for us are the one that stay on top of it.
Sure.
We have a weekly meeting that,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, so our projects, you all know that our projects are, civil site projects, and most of them are publicly funded projects, which do require a construction engineering segment. Our clients, the majority of our clients, retain us to do the construction administration side because we have a full inspection and construction administration team, and those folks are on site to do daily inspections, to do materials testing, to monitor, to monitor the goings on of the project, and to essentially to document what's happening. Now, in saying that, I will remind you that we're doing two different kinds of projects, kind of. We do have a publicly funded, a TAP funded portion to our project, which has to follow a certain process. That TAP process does have a construction, engineering side, and requires a daily log, for example, and that those records will be sent to MoDOT for reimbursements and such. And so while that is only applicable to the medians, the vast majority of our project, as we know, kind of falls into a slightly different category. So we're actually going to have two contracts on this job, and they'll be running concurrently, and they'll be awarded together. One will be reliant on the other. This is a rather complex project from that perspective, but nonetheless, we normally, on our public projects, we're normally providing that construction engineering segment, but it's a different team. It is a specialized team. There are folks that do heavy construction, highway construction, bridge construction, materials testing, geotechnical testing, and such.
Well, that's good answer, but what's interesting is that part of the accountability is we never use the engineer, civil and stuff to do the work. They're keeping us, kind of what Jeff was saying earlier, how do we keep them honest? And, as we talk about this kind of stuff, we can only guess at what we can do with somebody who actually knows how to read it and all that stuff and follow those kind of rules. And typically we wouldn't go outside. We would not use, not nothing to do with Red River, but Red River has its own deal. And I know they have a division of that. We always go some, and that's a third party, because there's no way, if I'm doing this kind of project this size, that I would have someone that, and that's a typical project. I mean, this is, it's 32, but my project at Atlanta is 140 million. And I want to make sure I know that where we're at with the document and all that. Although,
And we're the same way, Billy.
Yeah.
We had.
yeah, so try, you don't want to cross limits, yeah.
Cross line.
Yeah.
Schedule. That gave us the ability to push.
Yeah, plus you also have that things with PGA, they can do that, but at the same time, you want someone else.
We wanted somebody outside of
Yeah.
the contractor and outside of somebody that was billing us hourly to be able to tell us.
Where that way, this way it's applicable, like what Mike was saying.
Just so you know, and we've done something similar to that same kind of idea on the police station remodels. We've got another company that's come in, Navigate, that's been overseeing, right? So when there's conflicts between the architect and the construction company, they're like the truth finder and the fact finder. And then they warn us about scheduling challenges and things like that coming up. That has been invaluable to us. That's like the best money we've ever spent. The other thing is, I just want to calm everybody to, I feel very confident that we've got the expertise at the city now to know what we don't know and to know what we will need to have help and reinforcements on. Michael's already proven his mettle when it comes to a lot of these different projects that we've got going on, and he knows what are realistic and unrealistic terms. He's worked for MoDOT before, so he's got a breadth of experience that the city hasn't had in our ranks before. That's given me great comfort, and the results are speaking for themselves. So I feel really good about that. And it's not to say he's the guru, but he knows what he doesn't know. And so we're gonna know what.
And he doesn't know a lot.
No, there's very little he doesn't know, is what I meant to say. But he'll know which people we need to come in. So
Absolutely.
you guys don't have to worry about the schedule. That's our thing, right? This is what he does every day with support from the appropriate professionals. So I just want to call, yeah.
So I commend you for doing the police station. Where brought that up, because that's something that probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, we were originally starting talking about this project. I said it's very invaluable. You did that for it. We did the exact same thing, and it was so invaluable
Yeah.
for that project. So I commend you guys for doing that, and I would encourage that same thing for this project as well. In regards to not worrying about it, we're all gonna worry about it.
Well, I know. But then don't regret the details.
Especially me and Billy, this is what we
Yeah,
do
yeah.
for a living, so we're
And
gonna
we
cross it.
May cause the traffic problems on this road.
Yeah.
That too, that too.
Past the
Yeah. Understood. And the other thing too is when it comes to the government, like civil projects, like what Jerry was relating to, right? As frustrating as it is, we want to be able to do things like the private sector does, and we want to be able to offer things that the private sector can. We don't have all those luxuries, but that's why we've got the team in place that we've got to keep us within the guardrails. So I feel very good about that. Very good. Confident. This is gonna be our moment to shine, Michael, right?
I think really not hard to pick up with this thing here.
Yeah.
How do you keep the ducks in a row and who's on first for a second? And who's gonna sound like, oh, you know what? It's, that's, I know that's in your core, but that's a lot of work too.
No, I hear you, and I appreciate, I hear you saying, hire 3 more, so I like it. You feel obliged, just manage one management company, it's a lot easier, so.
All right, does anybody have anything else on incentives and damages? Hearing none, is there any new business? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor, good, by getting up and getting out of here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
More classes.
There you go.
Thank you, guys. Hey, have a happy 4th of July, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
We were on stage.
Yeah. Good.
I get some time by about a minute. And then,